Hi friends and family, I have more cutting or knife skills to show you from cooking class. I'm making Go Blue Dad stay up late just so I can show you so I don't forget. What I'm going to show you is how to make a garnish with a green onion flower. What I'm going to do is, you want to pick a green onion that has at least 3 stalks coming out of it, and you want them relatively firm towards the stem, and you only need about, maybe that's probably 1.5 inches up. This you can just maybe use on a salad or with a dish, and then where the stalks meet the stem, cut probably no more than 1 inch down. And again, hopefully you can use some of that. Now, I like to use a paring knife to do this. What you're going to do is, you are essentially creating petals, and you're going to carefully slice down each stalk almost to the stem. Go as thin as possible with your petals. For the sake of time, I'm probably going to go a little thicker on these, just because I just want you to kind of see what I'm talking about. The interesting thing is, as you cut through the stalk, it will get harder and harder to cut because it becomes weaker, obviously. So for example, on this last one that I'm trying to cut, sometimes what I'll do is squeeze it open, and you can sometimes get your knife in and cut it up, and if that doesn't work, you just kind of lay it on the cutting board, spread everything out, and then make the cut. So you'll continue to do that all the way through. Be very careful because you don't want to cut yourself. Now this one is a little weaker, it's not as sturdy as I would like, so sometimes I find that I can just go from the bottom up, and that works actually very nicely as well. And the goal here is to get these petals that you're creating to flower eventually. Okay, oops. Okay, now I didn't do the 3rd stalk just because I already have one made, and I'll show you. What you're going to do is take this, and we'll pretend this middle one is cut, and put it, just run your fingers through, make sure all the petals you've created are separate. You're going to put this in ice cold water, okay? And let it sit for at least half an hour. And then what you will have for a garnish is that. So if you can put it in the center of something, if you can kind of bury it, you can see that it really spread out and it looks kind of like a flower. And you could do a couple of them to make a bouquet, but I thought that was a pretty cool knife trick that we learned. That is our oven because Go Blue Dad is warming up food that I brought him home from class. Okay, the next thing we learned was sectioning citrus. What you want to do, you're going to cut the top, what I call the top and the bottom off. And you don't want to do real thick cuts because you want to save as much of the fruit as you can, but you want to see all the sections. So I have to keep cutting until, there we go, perfect. I see the sections. You'll do that on both edges, and the more you do this, you'll kind of gauge how thick you need to cut. And yes, I understand that this is probably more wasteful than just peeling an orange or cutting a grapefruit in half, but it's still a great tool to learn otherwise, to section fruit. The next thing I'm doing is I'm just obviously taking the skin off. And you want to remove as much of the white as you can. Now I'm using a utility knife instead of a chef's knife because I find the chef's knife is just too big for this. And I need to make rounded, see, I have barely any of the fruit on there. So I'm making kind of rounded, curved cuts to get this off. Now the goal is to get as much of the white off as possible. But again, in the sake of time, I'm just going to do a real quick job on this one just because I want to show you how to section the grapefruit. Caitlin loves grapefruit. A lot of times I'll just cut it in half and split it with her. But her stepdad, when he was visiting, sectioned one for her and she just loved it. So I'm going to get a little bit of that white off. Okay, now this is where I actually switch from the utility knife to a paring knife. Granted, Go Blue Dad likes the utility knife. Now to section it, you're going to follow the lines in the orange. It's like you already have a grid, and you're going to cut down to the center at an angle, and just be careful. You don't have to put a lot of pressure on because it will ideally come right out for you. And look at that, a nice section. And what you're going to do is you'll hit every section. They won't all be perfect, but shape-wise. And that one actually I cut a little too much out, so later on I'll go back and clean that up. But now I know Go Blue Dad was asking, well, why would I section fruit? Obviously for a snack, as we talked about. Caitlin likes sectioned fruit. For fruit salad, if you wanted some citrus, whether it's an orange, a mandarin, a grapefruit, let's see, lime wedge and lemon wedge, that'd be pretty tart. But you could put that in like a fruit salad, for example. Again, as a garnish, we had some guys in my class when we were sectioning, that's kind of a wimpy one, made an Asian dish, and so they cut up orange sections and they garnished the dish with their oranges, which looked great. And then actually a couple of us even took the oranges and ate them later. So now the interesting thing about this is obviously all you're going to get is the actual fruit, so you kind of have a lot of waste. So a couple ideas is, if you can use the zest, go ahead and zest it first, and maybe use the zest in a dish. Or and you'll notice I did this mostly in my hand. It's because it's round and it doesn't have a good cutting surface, but as you get towards the end, you could probably set it on your cutting board like I am, to get everything out. And now I have, let's clean this one up. Maybe I should just eat it. We'll just get rid of that one. Sorry. Here we go. Okay, you can see it's a mess, but what I'll do is I'll take my sectioned grapefruit, put it in my bowl, and with the leftover sections that don't, you're not gonna eat this. This is the white part or the hard skin. So all you do is squeeze it over your sectioned fruit. That will keep it nice and moist. Just squeeze it really good. If you found you have a lot of juice left on the peel still, that's another way to use it. Just squeeze it off, and just really get as much in to keep it fresh so that you can use it in a couple of days. And I am making a mess. But anyway, so that is how you section grapefruit or oranges. So anyway, bye guys.